First thing to do is to adopt it. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as is, or do you, anyone want to make any changes?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
A second?
A second.
All in favor? Okay, the motion has carried. We're going to go ahead and start with our commendations. We'd like to start with the middle school tonight. Mrs. Gomez.
I think that we're missing somebody.
Oh, so we'll come back to you. How about the high school? Are you ready?
Yep. All right, I can go first. I think if I stand over here, I'm on camera. I'm not sure. This young lady, she is not only good at athletics, but also academics. And she consistently shows her character through her kindness and friendship with others. So with that, Kate Vineyard, come on down. All kinds of got a shirt, a card, certificates. So she was one of the athletes that were part of the state championship. But honestly, that's not why you were chosen. So I'm going to read all the good gossip from your teachers. Okay. I'll start with Mr. Blanchard. He talked about your one flaw. So, it says, Kate Vineyard is in my pre-calculus advanced math class. She always works hard in math, but doubled her efforts to get caught up after the state playoffs. She is known for being consistently respectful and helpful to all. Her only flaw is that she doesn't play tennis. He might be a little bitter about that still. Mrs. Holcomb Rhodes. Kate is very respected among her peers and teachers. She is a hard worker and a senior leader on the track team. Kate is a one-of-a-kind inspiration, and it's rewarding watching her on the sidelines as her coach to be so successful. Very well deserved, because we all know she takes time to put in the work. Mrs. Holcomb. And then, Mrs. O'Connor. Kate comes prepared, happy, and ready to work every day. For 4 years, I have observed her kindness to others and her willingness to work her best at whatever she does. That is why she has found so much success and many friendships thus far in her life. Kate is interested in becoming a lawyer, so recently, in a career transition, she prepared a mock trial, which required 12 people. She created the evidence, gave the defendants and the prosecution their scripts, and held the trial after all the sports practices were completed. She said all of them learned a great deal in the process. The client was guilty. I am sure Kate will be successful in whatever she pursues in her future, and that's Mrs. O'Connor. And then the last one is by Mr. Sapp. And it's a little bit long, and I think he writes this like as a challenge to me to read it. So bear with me. It says, she is hilarious, she is kind, she is extremely intelligent, she is hardworking, she is committed, she is a tremendous student, she is a competitor, and above all, she is one of the best teammates and friends a young person can have. As the father of a young lady who was her teammate on the 2022 3A Women's Basketball State Championship team, I am forever grateful for the relationship and camaraderie Kate and Lauren developed. I will never forget her domination of the community of Burns, and although she is easily one of the worst do or no deal players I have ever seen, I could not have enjoyed watching her compete and having her in class more. Thank you, Kate, for being a leader and a blessing to our school. Whatever you do in the future, it will be a success. I would bet everything I own on that. I would be ashamed if I did not take the time to thank Chad and Molly for their wonderful children they have raised and for their arduous support to Nyssa over the years. What an amazing family. And I just want to echo that part. Thank you for making your school a good place.
Mr. Murray and Mr. Rodman, would you like to do that one?
All right. I'm glad the Blazards made it. Jenna, you want to come up? Look how elegant you are to receive your award. Jenna Blazard is our kindergarten through second grade student of the month. Mrs. Cuddeback, we're going to say some really nice things about you. Are you ready? Yeah? Mrs. Cuddeback says Jenna comes to school every day with a bright smile and a great attitude. I can count on her to follow the rules and be a role model for her classmates. She has a big heart and will be friends with everyone. She's a hard worker and an excellent student. I look forward to seeing Jenna every day. Mr. Evans, our music teacher, says Jenna has a smile and amazing attitude in music. She is an enthusiastic singer and participates in our games and activities with gusto. She is kind and considerate of her classmates and makes our classroom and school a better place. Mrs. Steinmetz, our PE teacher, says Jenna's not much of a talker, but her actions speak for themselves as she is on task and active. She is kind and eager to help when it is needed. She is a friend to everyone and is happy with a smile on her face. Thank you, parents, for doing such a great job. Jenna Blaser.
And our 3rd to 5th grade student of the month is Hallie Draper. Hallie, would you like to come on up? The long walk forward. Okay, I'll start with Mrs. Motes, her classroom teacher, who says Hallie is a conscientious student who gets her work done in a quick manner. She reads, and then reads more. Her passion for reading books is infectious. Being a competitor, she wants to have the most accelerated reader points for the entire grade level, and somehow she knows that if someone has more points, she sets her sights on beating that score and then does it. At the beginning of the year, she was sure that 5th grade math was beyond her skill level. Again, her competitive nature allowed her to conquer and enjoy math. Hallie is a writer and sure to be an author someday. Hallie is a storyteller. Her stories about her adventures with Hazel and her friends make me smile every day. But most importantly, Hallie exemplifies citizenship, moral character, and work ethic. She's a ray of sunshine among her peers and adults. Thank you, Hallie, for challenging me to be better. Mr. Evans, our music teacher, says Hallie is a considerate and kind student who thoughtfully contributes to our classroom discussions with thoughtful comments and reflections, but also has a good sense of humor to lighten our time together. Hallie is a pleasure to teach and have as an important part of our music class. And Mrs. Steinmetz says, Hallie is happy, kind, helpful, and a friend to everyone, on task, attentive, and an overachiever in the participation department. I never have to worry if Hallie is doing something right or wrong because she'll let me know it herself. I love the fact that she always asks questions to gain clarification and understanding. Of her many qualities, I like her ability to tell a good story, and she always makes me laugh. Thank you, parents, for doing such a good job. Our 5th grade student of the month, Hallie.
Is your student here?
Well, we're missing actually Bobby. Sorry.
Where's our mom?
Okay. We're back on signature. Okay, so I text Morgan to see, I think he's at True to Form wrestling practice, the little kids. If you want to, I'll do it last, but I told Morgan how to get onto the YouTube, so hopefully she's watching. So I will start with our student of the month. And that is Fatima Hernandez Lopez. Mr. Moy said that Fatima has a wonderfully positive attitude. She's always willing to help her table partners and puts a great deal of thought and effort into her classroom. Mr. Boyer said that he had no idea how talented she was when she walked into the room. She started as a beginning art student and then quickly advanced to advanced student. Her work has exceeded expectations. Her work is always being hung outside on the Wall of Fame. She's kind, soft-spoken, but her artwork speaks volumes. He's excited for her to present her work at the art show on May 11th. She's an amazing art student. Mr. Hunter said that you're an outstanding student who works well with the students around you. You do all of your work, complete it on time, and makes it really clear how you reached your solutions. Mr. Long said that you are great, respectful, considerate, and just plain wonderful. I have no idea. I have no doubt she's just as pleasant in all of her other classes and outside of school. We are fortunate to have you here, Fatima. Keep being fantastic. And Mr. Draper said, Fatima is so quiet, but she's such an amazing student and worker. Every day she makes class better for everyone. That was from a previous email I just went through. Right? So every month Fatima's name has come up, and so I'm glad that you're being honored this month. It's very well deserved. Congratulations. Okay, our employee of the month is Becky Cuevas. Once I started writing about Becky, I just kept going and going and going, but I will summarize some of that. So Becky's a graduate of Nyssa School District. She graduated in 2006. Came back in 2000, I don't know exactly, but I know that I heard her name about how fantastic she was in 2015. I think she left around that time to get her teaching degree. So she was an IA, and then we hired her in 2018 to be a 6th grade ELA and dual language teacher. And she's been really instrumental in developing the dual language program at the middle school and for the plan at the high school, which that group will be starting high school next year. The first group that started, so yeah. She's one of the only teachers I know who participates in 2 professional learning communities. As a teacher, she has high expectations for students and plays a critical role in helping them make the transition from elementary school to middle school, which can be really challenging for some kids. She's willing to go above and beyond. She helps support her students by giving up her lunch break so they can get help from her. During that time, she organized a book club last year and had great participation that happened all after school. This year, she coordinated a field trip to Four Rivers Cultural Center for 6th grade students to watch an opera. We hope they had a really good time. She knows the importance of providing students with experiences and is willing to do the work to make it happen. Becky helps make the middle school a great place to be. She's supportive of her colleagues and willing to sub or combine her class when we're short for sub, when we've been short substitutes, which has been quite a bit this year. She's asked to take on the duties of a staff member who had to be out for a while. She always brings food to staff socials, and we appreciate her a lot for that because we like our socials at the middle school. There really isn't anything Becky won't do for the staff and students at Nyssa Middle School. Beyond being a great teacher and colleague, she's a great human being who strives to improve the lives of others. We're really lucky to have Becky in the Nyssa School District. And our volunteer of the month is Bobby De Leon. Okay, practice with the little kids, volunteer. So we would like to thank Mr. De Leon for his continued commitment to the youth of Nyssa. Coach De Leon is an amazing servant to our community and our kids. Nyssa is a different place because Bobby and his family have decided to make other kids a priority in their lives. It is rare to find people that think like Bobby. Bobby wants our kids to thrive and to have experiences that change their path in life. While his focus is not always sports, Bobby has volunteered countless hours to run our youth wrestling program and to help continue building our tennis program. These are all additional hours beyond his coaching at the middle school and high school level. Bobby wants these programs to thrive and has gone above and beyond to provide opportunities for the youth in our community and surrounding area to participate. He's most recently facilitated 2 very large youth wrestling tournaments and middle school tennis tournaments in his free time. These events take countless hours to plan and run, but Bobby finds the energy and the help to make these events a success. In addition, they are always well run and they provide a great experience for kids, coaches, and parents. For example, our middle school tennis tournament was the first time most kids in our area have played in a tennis tournament or had the chance to compete for a tennis medal and team trophy. Thank you, Bobby and Morgan, who I think is watching, for dreaming big for our kids and finding ways to make opportunities happen. It is remarkable that you are always finding ways to say yes while others are searching for reasons to say no. Congratulations on receiving this well-deserved honor.
Can we go ahead and do this before they all leave for pictures? Mr. Murray, would you like to do this? Throwing the award?
Sure, absolutely. So if I could have the spelling the medalists come on up, all 3 of you, that'd be great. talk about you a little bit. So first of all, just to put things in perspective a little bit, we had our 6th annual Mountain County Spelling Bee about a month ago now. And just to make it to the Spelling Bee as a representative of Nyssa, these students and the other ones who competed not only had to be the best spellers in their classroom, but also their grade level, which is usually around 90 or 100 students per grade level. And then they competed against about 16 other students at their grade level who also had to go through that process to get to the county B. And so our first top performer was Hendrix DeAnda. Hendrix finished second at the first grade B. Which means Hendrix was the second best speller of all first graders in the entire county. That's hundreds of kids. Alexis Camarillo was the top speller in 5th grade, means the very best speller in the county of all 5th graders. And then as if that were not enough, if you were the top speller in your grade level, you got to compete in the final B, which Ava Anderson, who was the top 6th grade speller in the county, got to do. And in that final B, Ava was the very top speller, which means out of thousands of students in this entire county, you're looking at number 1. Ava and her family will be traveling to Washington, D.C. in about a month or so to compete in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. So congratulations to all 3 of these students.
If all the people who won awards and their families would like to go outside, you can get your pictures taken, but if you want to grab a snack on the way out before you leave, that would be great. We'll give you guys just a few minutes too.
When she comes in, she says, I want to be put on there. I don't know if my schedule that day will allow it, but she still wanted to be put on. And I never heard from her.
Okay, next on the agenda was Charlotte Burrow Richards, but she is not here. She's here. Oh, is she here? Oh.
Hi, Charlotte.
You're on.
Yeah, I'm on.
All right, okay.
I'm gonna stand up like this down. First of all, I want to thank you guys for your time and your support. I know that it's a thankless job and it probably feels undercompensated most of the time, but I do want you to realize that your impact on the community and the students and the families, we feel it, and I hope you understand and realize the impact that you have. So as always, I want to thank you. This is an address to the school board members. I've read through the board policy, so I would appreciate it that when I'm done, you might answer my questions, you might give me some comments and some feedback and let me know how you feel about it. I want to preface this by starting and say that I fully understand that all the board meetings, there's board policies that allow for proper procedure to take place. I've read through those. I understand that there's an agenda of issues. I've looked at the board meeting agenda, which states opportunities for the audience to be heard will be included. I've always respected the position of the chair. I know there's time constraints at meetings. I know nobody wants to be here 4 hours every every month, including myself. When I look through the board policy, I see many places that it says members of the public are encouraged to share their ideas and opinions with the board. Members of the public may be invited to present comments during the designated portion of the agenda. I've looked through the procedures that tell me how to effectively participate in board meetings. I understand there's a designated place, there's a designated time, that the comments should be brief and concise. I also understand that the questions asked by the public will be answered immediately. So with that being prefaced, I've been to a lot of school board meetings over the years, and I can promise you that not once have I been there because I wanted to be there. I've been there because I have a responsibility to my children, and that's why I'm there. And I have a responsibility to be there. I've been there for school board meetings about cheerleading and soccer and school lunches and even the solar eclipse. I've sat through all of them. I've been there. I've been to a lot of them in the last couple months because there's been items that I've been interested in. I've been to your work session because I wasn't sure where my public opinion fit in. And I wasn't sure if at the work session I could include my public opinion. I've always understood that my inputs and my opinions are just that. They're mine. I went home from a lot of school board meetings, happy and pleased with the decisions. I went home, I've been deflated by some of the decisions, but I've never stormed the Capitol, right? I've given respect to the policies, I've given respect to the board, I've given my input, and I've given respect personally to you as board members, and I've almost always felt like that respect has been given back to me. So I've always appreciated that. So within the boundaries of that respect and following the First Amendment right of all citizens, the board policy guidelines allow for public comment, which is vital and constitutional. And there is a tremendous value in allowing and encouraging the public to have input into the decision-making process. The parents have two places to affect change outside of their home, and that's by electing the school board members and by exercising their First Amendment right to freely address school boards. It is the foundation and a core value of representative government that parents enjoy their constitutional right to speak before and petition their boards to shape their desired course for their students. Even in today's world, parents are the very people who are responsible for the education of and the well-being of a child. So last month, when members of the public were silenced and disregarded while their hands were raised, that was an event I never believed would happen at a Nyssa School Board District meeting. This was done without any announcement, without explanation, whether this was done at the discretion of the chair or because the chairperson was directed to do so by an administrator. It did not feel respectful to the public. And honestly, I did hope that one of you board members would speak up for our First Amendment rights that fall within our board policy for public comment. When school boards, chairpersons, and administrators suppress our right to free speech, you have entered dangerous territory that leads to a slippery slope. This is unstable ground to plant our school values on. And to be silenced, although it was done quietly and unannounced without any common courtesy, it spoke volumes. We have a constitutional right to speak and to have answers, and that's stated within your own board policy. So I would ask you as a board, when the procedures for public comment are followed, does the board policy allow the administration or the chairperson to silence the audience?
Did we not used to have something on our agenda that said, there was a line item on here for public comment?
It was a long time.
There used to be. And
Like
Should there not be?
not prearranged?
there was a line item on here that said public comment. And I believe there used to be a sign in by the door over there that when they came in, they could put down if they wanted to comment on something or not.
Yeah, I believe so. I think you're right. So,
I would be open to having a line item such as that. I think that given a certain amount of time and maybe a certain number of speakers that could be allowed within that time limit, I think that hearing the voice of the parents and the people is an important thing. Now, whether or not we can answer, that's up for debate, because sometimes we can't make a decision without a discussion. And so, but hearing it at least puts that on the docket for the next time.
Well, I think as long as they follow the policy, and if we have to put a printed copy of the policy back there by where they sign in, as long as they're following that policy, then what's the harm?
Within the policy, it states that discussion or presentation concerning a published agenda item is limited to a designated place on the agenda. So if it falls within the agenda, it doesn't even need its own slot.
What does it say about the board chair recognizing them? Does it say something about that? Because wasn't that what we were kind of going over, with the board chair had to recognize them?
During an open, well, it talks about during an open session, a board member of the public may be invited to present comments during the designated portion of the agenda, but at the discretion of the chair, further public comment may be allowed.
That was the one I was curious. That's why, to be honest, I mean, I remember the incident and I felt bad, but at the time that was kind of where we were.
And I think
that's where we were kind of deferring to.
Because we
based
had
on that.
met in open session and had probably 30 or 40 people make comments, and we talked about it several times, we were just gonna get encouraged to just make a decision.
so I want to, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
I'm going to speak. I hear you, and I think this is Richard's, that. So my question is, Mr. Peterson, as you say, there is used to be a sign-in sheet. That created a little bit of order. You know, a board meeting can get a little messy, but if you don't sign in, then you can't give comment. I don't know if we want to go that far. I think we're trying to formalize and trying to create some sort of way for people to get input. We certainly want to hear input, and I think you addressed it saying no one wants to be here forever, but. Right.
Wouldn't it have been more respectful, though, if you had directed, as a superintendent, if you had directed the chairperson not to accept public comment? Wouldn't it have been, instead of just letting us sit there with our hands up, wouldn't it have been easy to say, hey, we have made a decision on this, we feel like we've taken all the public comment we're gonna take, we're not gonna take anymore? Wouldn't that have been a better way to address that?
Certainly, absolutely.
And when I read through this board policy and I see that there is nothing to describe a chairperson's discretion to silence people, wow, that's dangerous, right? They're allowed to, with their own discretion, to silence the audience. There has to be some evidence-based or well-defined standard. It can't just be, I shouldn't say it can't. I don't think it should be just at the chairperson's discretion or at the superintendent's call to say to the chairperson, you shouldn't take public comment. I think it's about the situation, but it's also about the handling, and I don't think anyone should feel that way again. And I think the precedents we see in the courts today shows that you don't have that right to silence parents. They have a right, a First Amendment right to a voice in this room. And I think it would be a fault to not hear them too.
So I totally, absolutely agree with what you're saying, but is that not what we have for having the public comment section here that you pre-arrange beforehand? If someone wants to say something, they should be allowed to pre-arrange to say it.
But they might be sitting out there and we discuss something, they don't know if they've got something to say until we discuss it. So it's hard to say, I want to talk at this meeting, and then.
And I was here for that item on the agenda, and the item I was here to comment on, I was not allowed to comment.
No, and I don't think we've ever silenced anyone in the past in 7 years. So I've been here for.
Yeah, I think
so. I know what we're talking about, but I didn't know how to react in that particular instance, other than to respect the board chair and the discretion. To be honest, you know what I mean, as far as how it was handled. I also didn't get a phone call later from anyone And maybe that was out of respect to us, you know what I mean? I don't know if it was, should have been my job to call you.
That was
or-
out of respect for myself, because I wasn't gonna call any of you until I had a little time on my hands.
Yeah, I got you. We've known each other for a long time, so I understand that. But, you know what I'm saying? But it works both ways. So.
I do have to say, we are encouraged to keep our meetings, certainly we want to hear public input, and we don't want to shut anybody down. I know our chairman doesn't want to shut anybody down. I think you were here the month before, weren't you? Talking about the issue.
Sure, 2 months before, and I also came to the work session, because, and no one could explain, can I speak in the work session, can I not, when is the right time? I didn't know. And no one could explain that to me and tell me where I had the right to have input.
Absolutely. At any time. At any time. It's a board meeting, so it's the board's meeting, and the board can call for public input. And as you're saying, we don't typically have on our work sessions a public input period. But maybe
But I think it was during the work session that
We had so
we
many.
had a conversation.
we did talk about it.
That's where we can
There
glean
was
the
input.
information.
Yeah.
So do we need to consider a change of policy?
I don't think change of policy, I think follow the policy, just better.
Make sure it's clear.
Certainly the concern that we want to make meetings, my concern, and I don't know that I said not take public input. My concern is, we were trying to adopt a calendar. I think that's what we're talking about. If it's not, we have to at some point move forward and make a decision. Not that we don't want to consider what people have to say, we certainly do. And I think I had said, maybe some of the board members had said, if people don't, let's talk about this for next year. But some people said, we don't want to talk about next year, we're going to talk about this year, right? On the calendar. So I don't know if that's what we're talking about. But certainly, I think Mrs. Richards is making a very good point as a board, and I do not want to instruct the board, this is your meeting, of how we can take public input and still have a meeting that allows you to deliberate and make decisions at some point without, I don't know, we need to stay till midnight, I guess we'll have to do it. I don't think that'll be often, but we need to do that.
Well, I think we need to find somewhere in the middle, because you can't come on, but we can't let it go all night. And that's where, Madam Chair comes into play. In controlling, it's like, okay, I think we've heard enough comments, but to say no comments,
From the audience, I feel like it's been pretty balanced most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
There are
yeah.
some heated things that come about, but when there was only a couple of us interested in speaking and we were silenced, and I read through the board policy and I see there's no description, there's no defined standard, there's no evidence-based discretion for the chairperson to silence people, that might be an area that you do need to define, right? Because if people become disrespectful or overheated, or it becomes too long, then that situation arises. Most of the time it's gonna be fine, but I don't think you wanna leave it just at the chairperson's discretion. Because that's hard.
You're probably right.
Mrs. Reynolds, we had two people hand up, but I saw it. Carlton and Crystal, and then
Crystal, would you like to
Oh, Donnie, did you have something? Sorry.
Right, I'm sitting down.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Charlotte, so much.
Yeah, thanks for ruining my day. Ruining my day.
And I think that 3 minutes sounds like a good number. I guess my question would be, does the audience, are they okay if we say, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up? Is that better than nothing? Right?
For everybody's comments, 3 minutes?
And then how many of those 3 minute comments do we accept?
I was going to say, sometimes you only have one person or two people making comment. You may have 15 people, so you might want to put a time limit. If you just have a couple of people, you might say 5 minutes each or something, or,
Based on the time allowed or the number of people that want to speak.
correct. So, but I think that it behooves us to be aware. And apparently we were not. So,
Yes, Ms. Schuster?
I actually beg to differ, you weren't aware because I spoke to you guys a few months ago about the same thing. And Charlotte and I both had to get put on an agenda in order to be heard. And who are you representing? Are you representing yourself? Is it just a board, as Mrs. Monk said? This is a board meeting, so basically we don't matter? Or are we parents who care about our kids or community members? I mean, we all care about these kids, otherwise we wouldn't be taking time out of our evening. I've actually missed because my son's been in the hospital. That it matters to me, so you guys should care enough about what we have to say. Nobody should be out of control by any means, but we should all get a say. And it shouldn't be up to you whether or not you want to honor people having an opinion on what goes on in our school system. It's not the Nyssa School Board. You guys represent us. You were voted, right? By who? People. All right, do you care about us and our children?
Yep.
Then don't sit here and bicker about whether or not we have to put our name in a whole week ahead of time in order to have an opinion.
Crystal, did you have this?
Oh, I was kind of going to say what Donnie said. I know when I have participated in the city council meetings and gave public comment, it was timed, and 3 minutes, I was done. That's how the chairman ran that meeting. So just a suggestion.
And I was gonna say, I think part of the problem is, like you're saying, we don't know where your comment comes in, whereas I think in our minds, we have been discussing it since January, every other week. And so then at that point, I think it was, we discussed it 6 times, let's make a decision. So I think there definitely needs to be clarification of when that discussion happens before we make that vote.
Yes, go ahead.
And my objective is not to have you have to implement a whole bunch of more board policy. That's not where I'm coming from. I just don't ever want to enter this ground where people are silenced and feel like they're silenced, because it doesn't represent any of us well, right? And I think, like I said, the board has ran efficiently. There are times, I know during COVID, I purposely missed those meetings where, things were heated and you did have to time them, but most of the time you don't need that. There are times when you might have to implement that, but just be respectful, just like you want your audience to be respectful to you.
Any other policies? Mr. Carlton?
Yes, I think some of this came back like a year and a half ago when we were on Zoom and comments were being made anonymous. And so people could not determine who was making which comments. And at that time, most of the comments were being shut down because there was not a person attached to those comments.
Correct. Because it's public record, the person has to be on record as well. They can't
And
just be
so I
anonymous.
think that's a lot of why the public comment has stopped. But we discussed for probably the last 9 months about having the agenda out in a timely manner. I think honestly, this month it was out. But before that, it was very seldom posted online on the school website before. So getting on the agenda is very difficult.
When you don't know the agenda. I just have one more briefing. I know what the agenda's out, you're going on there. But on one thing I did notice on the board policy that I went in reading about this, it's changed in other places when you ask for people's name and addresses. That is something that board policy is changing. They're not asking people for their addresses anymore because of heated board meetings. So just a little something you might scratch off there. I don't think we have to worry about it here, but you could be ahead of the curve, right? And just have people include their name.
Makes sense. I don't know that we would need to collect addresses.
Well,
Is that
part of
something
the
legal?
reason they were asking for addresses is so that they would know that the individual speaking was from their district.
In the district.
Can we just do a checkbox?
Yeah. I know, just
We know where.
We know where you live.
but the judges are ruling, they're making it so that people don't have to share their addresses when you
speak.
Well, I think this requires some further discussion, but I am all for having some more opportunities for public comment in a organized manner. So I think
Well, as Jeremy said, at one time, we did have an agenda item that said public comment. So,
And they signed up at the door, and then they brought it up, and then they went in that order.
But even without the sign up.
Yeah.
There are times that I got questions.
yes, and we, as a board, we need to be cognizant of that. So, my apologies, personal apologies.
Same.
But, it is, thank you for reminding us that, we do need to look up and pay attention.
And I truly am thankful for you guys serving on the board, because it takes a lot of effort, and it's we need good people with good values. So thank you.
All right, that's great. Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's move on to the superintendent's report.
Mr. Baloo, I sent out the superintendent's report via email to you. So I'll take one. There you go. So, as typically I do, I include the current enrollment with the school district. I need to do a better job for you. I talked about this today of how does that compare to last month, right? So, I think we can look at the document from last month, where we have 1,891 students taking in person, registered in person. Mrs. Morinaka had asked me for this one, attendance data. She curious about, so there's two stapled coming to you. Thank you. You're my messenger, guys. Appreciate it. So if you look at the average daily membership, up at the top right, you see that it says the year. Do you have that yet, Mr. Wilson? At the end, you're still getting it? So we have, there's two stapled papers, and there's two different.
Okay, two different ones.
So one is, if you look at the date right here, if you can see what I'm pointing, that is the first semester. And the other one is from January 3rd until today. So I just wanted to address those two with you. Mr. Blue, can you see those on the that I sent you today?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So there's a lot of numbers here, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you're looking at the kindergarten, that first page on August 23rd through December 31st, first semester, you're looking at the total number of hours present and the total number of hours absent, right, of students, if you can see that in that first column. And then if you go over to the right, ADMR and ADMN, those are calculations. Crystal, I don't even know if those are calculations you would look at or consider. This is attendance, so sorry, grab a couple. But that's the center column, ADMR, ADMN. What I really want to draw attention to is that it's underneath 88%. It's average daily attendance. That's the percent. In each grade of students attending, you can see the student count to the far right of that. So of 95 students, we have 88.95% attending first semester. So first, and then that goes down. That is, I believe, our lowest grade. Kindergarten was our lowest grade in attendance. At a high of 93.09% of fifth graders attending. So total average attendance, daily attendance in the first semester is 91.75 in the elementary school. The second page of that first semester is middle school. Our lowest average attendance percent is eighth grade at 88.97%. And sixth grade was 92.48, and seventh grade 91.03, for an average of 90.83%. You see that on that second page? And then the last page of this first semester is the 9th through 12th grade. So our lowest attending class is, what class is it, Mr. Jackson? The juniors. This first semester of the juniors, 89.86. So seniors are 90.64. So if you can see that average daily attendance, or attendance is averaging over 90% in each building. That's first semester. If you look at the second semester, January 3rd until today, you can see that date right off to the right. Donnie, do you see that? Okay, sorry. So you can see the comparison with first semester with second semester. So we are relatively very close. All of them over our high school is second semester is a little lower. It's 88.92% as for this second semester so far. I don't know what to attribute that to, Mr. Jackman, if it's trips, kids are gone from school, or what happening there. I just wanted to draw attention to that. So good weather. Good weather. Could be it. I want to next go over some dual language immersion data that I have been collecting. Mr. Jackman, if you give one of those to Megan. That one. This is a study done of our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Okay, so these are the first 3 grades that started the dual language immersion program. And this is for math only. So I have Mrs. Burbank, Mrs. Burbank. Mr. Hawkins always called her Burbank. So Mrs. Burbank helped with this collection. So in that white, Miss Donnie, can you, Mr. Ballou, can you see this one? It's the dual language immersion. What's that? Okay. So just to explain this one, you can see up at the very top left, it says EO. That is English only class. Okay. In the grayed out portion, you can see DL. That's the dual language class. Okay. So we do not. This is iReady math information. So iReady is a diagnostic for. It's the end of the year for the students. It measures typical things and measures of growth, similar to the state test. We've had some issues with state test in the recent past because one year it was suspended and another year it was only partial. So the iReady data is helpful for us. So that first column tells you what grade those students were in the year, right? The second column where it says final diagnostic average score, that doesn't really tell a whole lot because we don't know what's a good score, right? But in that third one, it says number on grade level or above. And so there's a total of 51 students in that fourth column. A total of 51 students, 18 were on grade level or above on the end of year iReady math in English only. So that the last column is the percent. So that same explanation plays out in the grade in the English, the dual language. So we can compare the English only to the dual language students over time, how they did on math instruction for their math achievement on the iReady.
So, and the total that you have there, that's the total number of students?
Total number of students, yes. In the English only program in that grade. When they were, so this year's 6th graders, when they were in 2nd grade, the year was 2018. There were 51 of them, 18 of them passed, which is 35%. So it just gives some information. We're currently working on collecting some information like this for the English language arts. But I wanted the board to be able to see kind of this preliminary data collection for math. We are comparing English only and dual language. Just crazy.
That'll be interesting to look at at home. Thank you.
It's a lot, but I want to say that.
Is there a hand? Oh.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
On the iReady, we have iReady at the elementary school and the middle school. So I can merge the data all the way from kindergarten through 8th grade. So any student, we can track all the way from K through 8. Okay? But the elementary school does not have iReady diagnostic.
in reading. So in reading, we do not have any common tests that we can use to track them all the way through. Okay. Just so you know.
That's good input.
At least not K8. We certainly do have a common test K5.
Yes. But it won't, it's not that ready.
No, it's not.
So as far as comparing the two, but we can still compare data, right?
Right.
Over time.
Yeah.
Mr. Jack, are you ready to continue with the letter? So here's, that's the front and back. And so take board members, take 2 papers. We're going to staple, I should have stapled. First page, second page. This is a copy of a letter received from ODE, as you see on March 28th. It was written on March 28th. I received it just last week, I believe, or recently, just early last week, late last week. It is talking about our audit of the Title 1C program. Okay, and I've asked Gabe Fuentes.
Right.
There you are. Okay, sorry, I saw you earlier. So Gabe is the supervisor of our migrant program, our Title 1C. And not that I want to turn any time over to you, but if we have questions, Gabe is really good at helping us answer them. So we were notified. This is an audit that is not a typical audit. It was spurred by a complaint about are we qualifying students in the migrant program correctly? So we have recruiters. They go out and talk to the families. A new family moves in, or however they find them. They're recruiting families that work in sheds, that work all over the town. They move in and we find out where they are. We fill out what we call a COE, a certificate of eligibility. And if they answer all the questions correctly, then they qualify as migrants. And that comes with a lot of money from the federal government. We get a grant from the federal government that we write for Title 1C migrant students. So that does not figure into our state school fund. Is that correct, Crystal?
That is correct. Our state school fund is figured off our ADMW, and migrant numbers are not a part of that formula. This is our separate federal Title 1C money.
So ADM stands for average daily membership, so the enrollment of our students, and revenue stands for weighted. Because every student who comes to us, the state sends us a certain amount of money per pupil, right? The W means that some students will receive more money for them. And that's in the state general school fund. This 1C is separate from that. So this audit does not affect the state school fund. So I want you to know that. So I wanted you to be aware of the explanation from ODE about this audit. Gabe, any input?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Basically, the short story of it is they're requesting the quality control process of our recruiter. Just so you know, we do have a very stringent quality control process that we do every year, done by the state. I have copies of every single one since 2018. We've never been found for anything. I also have a copy of our 2016 and 2019 summer school audit where they came and monitored us for the summer. No findings whatsoever. So we do our job really well. I'm really proud of our recruiters. She's one of them who's actually been a finalist for the state employee of the year in the migrant program. I think it just comes basically from a complaint from someone who wasn't happy with what was going on. So.
And the state is obligated to respond to
yeah, and we got to do our part.
So we are trying to figure out why 19, we did a spot test of 100 families. People from wherever called, there are 100 families and found 19 uneligible, needed to be removed from the migrant program. I have tried to figure out from the state to get answers saying, well, what was the reason they are qualified? What was the answer? Because in some cases, the answers when they filled out the COE was years ago. And so now you're asking somebody on the phone is calling these families and it's making them answer the questions again. Says, things have changed. I don't know. I can't get answers from the department about what answers were given the disqualified.
So they already taken those 19 off.
So they have, and we're like, why did you do that? Well,
So
what's
yeah,
the reason?
like I said, the state does these re-interviews every year. They randomly select 10. They let our recruiter know that it takes about a month to make sure they set up all the re-interviews. They come in person, they do them. Obviously, last year they didn't get to do it in person because of COVID, but did them over the phone. We got them all. We were good. Everybody was eligible. We also did an interstate. We did 2 re-interview processes last year. So we did an interstate with Washington, where they had Washington, state of Washington do a random re-interview process of about 10 of our COEs. It came back fine again. In the emails that I have copies of are accommodations from our support center at the Wyoming State, which is called OMES, which is the Oregon Migrant Education Center, or Service Center. And they're kind of our support system. Nothing but good words from them. So we're really kind of surprised that nothing was ever told to us with, all those re-interviews that, hey, you need maybe there's some that you need to check, or you're having some issues with some. We've never been told or communicated anything that we had issues with our recruiting process.
So how many families do we have?
Total?
Yes.
I believe we have over 800 families, or 800 students, should I say. And I say families, about 600.
600 families just from Nyssa, or is that the entire consortium?
I'd say 600 to 700, 700 if you include the whole consortium probably. 600 from Nyssa.
And how many students does that translate to?
Roughly 823. It fluctuates.
Roughly 800.
Well, it fluctuates. I mean, it could be 854 at certain points in the year as well, so it just kind of fluctuates.
And if you write that,
We have a running raw data enrollment that changes.
And so the next step is?
They sent us a letter of what the process is to do the re-interview process. They will come down and they're gonna re-interview all of our families. We do this work. This is what we do, right? We know it's very hard, and you guys know it's very hard to communicate with all our families in any way. They plan on doing 600 re-interviews. We will help them any way we can. I just don't really know how that's going to happen, right? Our families are busy; they're working, and if they plan on being here for a couple months, I don't see it. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get it done. They have a really short time window to get it done, so I don't know how.
Have you told them of the potential restrictions as far as these people are working till dark?
Yeah, ODE is very new. All the new directors at the migrant department are all brand new from out of state. So there was a big turnover there. There's also a big complete turnover at the OMES, which is our support system. And they're actually getting an internal audit as well from the Wyoming State that I'm participating in tomorrow, because their quality control process has been questioned as well. So that's kind of a mess, I think, at the state level right now. And like Mr. John said, we have all our documentation. We do everything we know we do. So we'll let them ask, tell us what they want us to do, and we'll go through it, and we'll make it work. And if their families don't qualify, we can always re-qualify them, do re-interviews and see if they've made any eligible moves to be re-qualified and get those family services. ODE did also let us know that any families that were declared eligible, they would support them all the way to the end of the year with any other funds needed to support those 19 families. And they were actually going to contact 19 families and let them re-interview again, hopefully that they would re-qualify because they made an eligible move between that whole process.
well, if you think about this, for me, I'm very concerned about the families that this affects.
Yes.
Because these are 19 families, and there's a lot of benefits from being in the migrant department. Students qualify for SMILE. Those are incredible learning opportunities and field trips. They qualify for college scholarships many times, and as a migrant student. And so we are quite concerned about these families and working with ODE to say, I don't know, the complaint came in, I don't know, I feel like it was, they're trying to do their due diligence to check into it. And we are cooperating with them, and so that's all that I have for you right now. I will continue to update it as we go forward. So
I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
So all of your funding for the migrant education program comes from?
Based on our number of students that are in our program.
So it's all federal?
Yes, all federal.
Is this going to impact the summer school program?
No, it's not. We got our allocation for summer school. We actually got $60,000 more because we did an in-person summer school. We had 382 students in-person summer school last year. We were one of the only migrant programs in the state that did that. So.
And will this impact Adrian and Dale that are in?
I really don't believe so. I think that the families that weren't eligible were going to be innocent families. I don't think any of the Bell or Adrian families will be ineligible. I really don't believe that. I haven't given the list, but I don't think it'll be any of those families.
So you even know about this yet?
They haven't given us the official list yet. I don't think they've made all the phone calls yet. It takes a while to make those 19 phone calls. and get those families.
But they're gonna get through 800.
Yes.
In person.
In
It's
person.
been frustrating, it's been frustrating for us trying to get answers.
And I guess a little backstory on the re-interviews with that data, they got the 90 out of 100. That was done on the Friday after Thanksgiving without ODE letting us know, so we can let our families know that someone's gonna be calling them asking for their students' information, their birthdays, where you live. They don't know who's calling them. So that weekend, our whole team had phone calls from all these parents wondering why they're getting phone calls when someone asks for their kids' information. So Mr. Johnson had a meeting with ODE. They apologized for not letting us know that they're gonna call these 100 families. I got a couple apologies as well from the third party they hired to do the phone calls, but they still use that data. That's the data they use, those phone calls that they did over Thanksgiving holiday.
Where some of that information could have been given under duress because they were
Correct.
panicked, they didn't know what was
Those
going on.
families
Why
had
is
no
the
clue who
government
was
calling
calling.
about my kid?
Correct.
Wow.
So are the questions on the
COE?
certificate, yes, are they the same questions every year?
Yes, since I've been around, I have not seen it change. The only thing that has changed in the last 3 years, it's went from a hard copy, carbon copy, triple carbon copy to all electronic and digital. So it basically goes from our recruiter to our data processor to the state, and that's the way it goes.
Do you have a question?
I'm just gonna add that the families in the migrant program are some of the least likely to volunteer information about their families also.
Right.
They really trust us. I mean, our recruiters, they really trust. Like I can get hold of a lot of families, but I know there's no way that they would answer for me. I got to get our recruiter or someone else that has a connection with them in our team to make sure they get contact with them. So they're very trusting in who they trust. And someone calling them out of the blue, not giving them a whole lot of info.
Thank you for your hard work.
And the last thing on my superintendent's report, number 5 is, well, let me say this. We have, Megan, thank you, has provided us with this. It's the Nyssa Jazz Band benefit dinner on Saturday, April 23rd. I believe that is the same night as the Chamber of Commerce dinner. So if you'd like to make a donation, can't be there, that would be great.
We're going to both.
Or do both.
Eat twice.
Yeah, eat twice. Donate twice. Then.
No, they do it over at the.
Yeah, the support the court. That is for our special needs students and a lot of our high school students working with special needs kids. It's a lot of fun.
Do you know how many of the athletes are going to be coming from Nyssa? Just curious, like, is there a ratio of more Vail kids or Ontario? 6 or 7? 6 or 7?
We're represented really well.
That's great.
It's fun to watch.
Great.
So, and
The
FFA banquet is tomorrow night.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock at the high school cafeteria. So if you'd like to attend
And
that.
I heard tickets are $10 or $50 for a family. So whether you're bigger, if you're bigger than 5.
And then the last 2 items, 5 and 6, classified negotiations, we scheduled those dates. And the board does need to decide how many of you would like to be on that committee. And we're also doing certified negotiations. We have a beginning date only with certified, April 27th. So if you want to have 3 people on one and 3 on another, or 2, however you want to do that as a board. Mr. Hawkins and I serve at your pleasure to be on those committees with the associations. And so you can all decide how you want to do that.
We probably need to decide tonight because the certified is before next month. Is there anybody who would like to be on that?
And so is the classified 2026.
No, we're
It's
good.
lots of fun. We bring food. Right? Yeah, all night long. It's great.
We're bringing food.
It's really good.
Homemade Mexican food.
What is it in
Yes.
Just a question. I have heard rumor that it could be a conflict of interest for you to be in attendance at that meeting because your salary increase could be dependent on what these people receive. And that way, if you were pushing for more, therefore you would be getting more, then maybe you shouldn't be at that meeting.
Well, so the board can do that however they'd like, whether they tie any raise that either of the associations can't to me, then, yeah, it could be seen either way. So the board can choose how they want to do that with me, certainly. If any, that's how it is, that's how it works, so.
Do we need a certain amount of people on each committee or?
Less than a quorum.
So three or fewer. Anybody like to be on those committees? I'm just looking that way.
So we're all volunteering really quickly.
I can't. Nobody's looking at me, so I can't classify.
I can do the 20th and the 26th.
So.
Let's just do the dates.
I could do certified, but I cannot do the 27th.
So Megan, you wouldn't mind, I can do certified.
Megan,
Then were you saying,
We could use somebody else on classified,
Alicia, were you saying?
Yeah, I can do classified.
but we should have somebody else.
Yes.
Donnie, are you available for any of those? Okay.
Either one.
Can we put you down? Oh no, he probably can't do classified. Can
No, he can't, that's his conflict of interest.
Susie, if you would just call us a day or two before, then I might know my schedule a little better. As long as there's two of us there.
Not just Jeremy.
Well, I mean,
All my free time.
so right now I have Alicia for classified and Megan and I for certified. Anybody else? I don't want anybody else.
I can be classified too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And I will give Jeremy a call and see.
Is there a time on the classified one? I see the
Oh,
certified.
Donnie has to do, Donnie, you have to do certified because there would be a conflict of interest for you to do classified. We're gonna put you down for certified because it would be a conflict of interest for you to do classified. Okay.
All right, and sorry, do we have a time for that meeting? I see that the certifieds were 7.
Ryan, Cindy, you decided.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Talk about
6.
it.
Let's do 6. Yeah, you need longer.
Six.
6 o'clock.
6
6
o'clock.
o'clock.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
All right. Okay, Crystal, can we do our financial report?
Yes. Tonight I have presented you with financials through March 31st of this year. Our revenue for the month going into our general fund, we came in at 1.1 million. There's something new on the operating statement this month. Under restricted federal grants, you'll see a number, $4,086. We had 2 teachers apply for a grant this year. They worked over an 8-month period, and so they applied, they received the grant, they do the work, and then they got paid out money for it. So that money's kind of an in and out, but that's what, we don't usually have that. Haven't seen it all year, but that's what that is, if you're wondering. And then our expenses for the month were $1,099,000. So it's bringing our balance to a little bit over 3.1 million. So we carry that forward until June, and then that's when we don't get our state school fund that month, but we pay out a ton of payroll to end the year. So no surprises in our general fund this month. After that operating statement is the breakdown of our LGIP for the district, the taxes that came in, and the payments that went out to our bank account so we can process our payroll and all of our expenses. After that is our middle school bond operating statement. We currently ended the month at a little over $307,000. We do have that debt service payment coming up. That is an amount of $329,900. So we don't quite have enough money. We're going to collect taxes for April and for May, and we're gonna have enough money. So, all that money in that account is only for our debt service payment, nothing else. After that is the operating statement for our early head start. Our biggest expenditures in that program is our salaries and benefits. We ended the month with an ending fund balance of a little over $37,000. After that is the food service report. And we ended the month of March a little under, I should say, $20,000 in the black.
Yeah, even with all the increasing price of food and transportation, that's.
Yeah. And March was a short month because we had spring break. So I think we only served 15 days, I think, or 18, I can't remember. So April will be an even better month because we're in school more. After that is the approval of the bills report, everything that has gone out of the district from March 5th to April 4th. And following that is our payroll report for the month of March. Only other thing I have is working on the budget and to wrap it up with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Hawkins, hopefully really soon. Please don't forget our first meeting. I believe it's Tuesday, May 3rd, 6 o'clock.
Sorry.
Anybody have any questions for Crystal?
I just wanted to say thank you for last time when we talked about the projections for the fuel cost increase. That was really enlightening. So thanks for preparing that.
But since then, I actually saw a news report, it told where in California they are over $9 a gallon.
$9 a gallon?
At the top, now somebody actually took a picture of it, our top is $9.79 per gallon.
Well, that's sickening.
Glad you're not in California.
I think our gas went down this week.
Yes.
I think in town, so.
Thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is the consent agenda. If you want to take a minute to look it over, all the retirees and resignations and hires. And if there's no questions or comments, we can make a motion to adopt it as is.
Are we allowed to say we don't want people to resign? Or leave? I wish we could.
Scott, I need to see you,
For real.
Wish you well and enjoyed having you here.
and I have to really say, I hate to see Mr. Dickey.
I think everybody does. Yes, somebody
Okay,
wants to
I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as written.
I second.
All in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, we'll go to the old business. There are a couple policy updates that Mrs. Marnaco will go over with us.
Yes, as soon as I can find them here. Yes. Dr. Johnson finally got information back on the special ed individualized education program. That would be IGBAFAR. And Darren, if you wanted to explain what that basically says.
So, let's see, Megan, what was your question?
I was wondering why there were two separate parts, the special factors.
I'm trying to remember what that was, but anyway, I asked and I did forward an email that I received from OSBA regarding that, and they said that's
It's because of the way the state laws are written. They have two things for two different items, so they address both of them or address them individually.
So that is why they were written the way they were. It's Megan's question, it's a very good question, and I appreciate them coming to discussion at standpoint. And the reason they wrote it that way is because that's how the legal code was written.
So to address what the codes say individually. On the other one, the interscholastic activities, the IG J. We've all had a chance to read through it. And it sounds like a good policy. I'm comfortable with it. What I will say is on that last the paragraph on the first page, it says an employee determined to have violated rules and regulations of the OSAA will or may, we have to make a decision, subject to discipline up to and including dismissal. I would like to put will in there because students, it says will, volunteers, it says will, and we need to be equitable here. So I would like to make that one will. And on the next page, it says employees, volunteers, or students in violation of OSAA rules and or regulations. I would like to put may be required to remunerate the district in the event of fines assessed by OSAA as a result of their actions, because that gives us, our district, our school board, our administration, some jurisdiction. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we accept the policies IGBAFAR and policy IGDJ.
With the corrections we made.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept these policies with the corrections made.
Yes, second?
Oh,
Yes.
The will may paint us into a corner. There are different levels of violations of OSL. There's minor ones that where, you know, a coach gets a tap or something. That's a violation. We're going to fire him for the first one. Right now, we have some discretion. We have had coaches that are expelled from the game who come back and are decent coaches for us. So with an OSLA violation, if it's will, then yeah. A lot of times a coach, there's a penalty, they pay the fine, they lay out the games, and then they come back. So if it says will, then we would have lost coaches this year.
But it says will be subject to discipline up to and including. It just says.
I can do that.
And it doesn't say it's OSAA that's doing it. It's just according to it says.
I like the subject to discipline. I thought it said will.
No.
Right.
It reads an employee determined to have violated rules and regulations of the OSAA will be subject to discipline up to and including dismissal.
Perfect.
So we still have that.
It still
And
gets.
that reflects what we currently do.
Yeah.
And we do discipline without firing the coach the first time.
Right.
Thank you.
It's going to have better behavior if that was the case.
It would be.
Okay, so there was a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay, the motion was carried. Okay, we talked earlier at our work session about the appointment of a budget committee member. We had 2 people apply. One has been on the budget committee for quite a while, and then coming up in June 30th of this year, we'll have 3 people that will be, their tenure will be over, and so we would like to, are we gonna just, do we need to vote on it right now?
Yeah.
We're just appointed.
We'll have to vote on
The board needs to vote.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to nominate the person that we talked about?
I'll make a motion that we nominate Michael Hartley. He's just mostly, if they want discussion, because he's been on it for a while, he understands it really well, asks good questions, he understands the budget very well. So, I'll say.
Second, all in favor? And hopefully Angelica will apply for a position when it comes up in June. Next is the superintendent's contract. I understand that there are 2 parts. We just finished his evaluation, and we need to vote on whether to renew or not renew his 3-year rolling contract. I'm sorry, can you say that louder?
I'd like to make a motion to let renew Nyssa contract.
Okay, so there's a motion to renew his contract.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we need to vote? Okay,
May I make a comment?
yes, you may.
We can renew this contract for just 1 year if necessary, and I didn't catch what Donnie said. Did he say?
He said he wanted to make a motion to renew his 3-year rolling contract. And it was seconded by Alicia.
3 total years.
That's rolling. Can you explain to us there, Dr. Johnson,
So,
what rolling means?
Right, so, for example, if the board chose to not renew me, I have a 3-year rolling lease. I would have 2 years left after this year. So if you're not renewed me, if you renewed me again, then I have 3. So it renews every year. That extends the 3-year period.
Well, I thought your current contract had been renewed to include 1 more year, so it would have gone to, what is it, 2023?
Every time it's renewed, it rolls that 3rd year.
Yeah, and as I recall, the board had rolled it just 1 year back in July or August.
So this would now be an additional 3.
The board reversed the non-renew. So that's, I think, what happened.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So here's my contract. If you don't have it, I was just going to hand this to all of you. Donnie, I think I emailed that to you. Is that correct?
Did he email you a copy of his contract?
Oh, got stuck in it. That's the problem with having anything else. All a copy of it.
Yeah.
You have a copy of it?
Megan emailed it to us.
Oh, okay. Here's a hard copy.
So we've made a motion and we've seconded it. Is there any other discussion or do we want to vote? No more discussion? Or do you want to take a minute to look this over or?
Not typically discuss what we're going to do with this contract and raising,
Yeah, that's the second part. You get to the reason.
but that's part of the contract.
It is. So it could be we renew and then, I've talked to several superintendents how this is done. In the same way that with our classified and certified unions, the actual negotiation is not public, but the discussing.
Right. That's why I was asking.
But the results are, right? And so I guess my request is that you choose to renew or not renew. And if you do renew, then some board members be appointed to visit with me, talk about that, and results, of course, will be public, but the actual facts and enforcement doesn't need to be per law, by law.
Sounds good. Okay, so all in favor of renewing Dr. Johnson's 3-year rolling contract, raise your right hand, please. Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion has carried. Now we need to appoint a couple people to be on negotiations with Dr. Johnson's about his salary.
Or we can do negotiating with the entire board all in executive session with Dr. Johnson.
However you'd like to do that.
Would you like to have a couple people be on that committee, or would you like to do an executive session?
It's kind of nice sometimes to get everybody's comments on it, to be honest.
I agree with Jeremy. I think
That
that
kind of brings us all to one agreement.
because the board has 1 employee,
Yep.
basically.
Donnie, what are your thoughts?
I didn't catch all of it. Is there I know we're talking about video having a few people, is that what you were asking about?
Yeah, whether to have just a few people or all of us do it in executive session.
I really good either way, the executive session, we want to do this one.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like the consensus is to do it in executive session. We are on the 11th. Do we want to do it on the 25th? That's 2 weeks. Wait. Just make
Is there a time that we have to have it finalized by, Dr. Johnson, do you know?
My contract specifies things are supposed to be finalized as soon as,
Is 2 weeks too late?
no.
Does anybody object to the 25th?
When is the certified?
I looked, it's not, it doesn't, yeah.
So certified is the 27th.
If we had it done before the certified, then he could participate in the certified and it wouldn't be a conflict.
So we could do it the 25th.
What's your first?
Okay.
I mean, I'm hoping that the classified is certified, but it's just what, that would be awesome. But I'm
Okay, so on the 25th, the works, executive session at,
Can we do it on the 26th?
That's a meeting with the classified. Sorry.
What, is it like 6 o'clock or
6
6:30?
o'clock work?
Can we do it at 6:30?
I'm fine.
Sure.
So.
Mr. Wilson, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, 6:30 on the 25th.
Okay, 6.
6:30.
Okay, any other, things that we need to discuss before we adjourn our meeting?
Were you gonna have kind of, a list of, expected, I don't know what to say,
Thoughts,
you know,
requests.
requests,
Sure.
yeah,
I think that's typical in negotiations. I will have a list of.
okay, during negotiations.
If you'll notice in the colored folder that I gave you, the very last page there has, it's a comparison data across the state, and that is just for information only. That is collected by COSA, or by a former superintendent who provides it to COSA, just similar, just information for you to
Thank you.
consider.
Anybody have anything else they need to bring up for the board? Okay, this meeting is adjourned, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, buddy.
But remember at the work session before we had 50 people, Alicia was coming back to run through